everyone, I'm Virginia Killmore and welcome to my studio. Today's Collage Wednesday and I have a great project for you that uses a technique called a one-sheet wonder. The one-sheet wonder will create actually 4 cards when we're done, so this project will take a few more minutes than you're used to watching, but I think it's well worth it, so let's get started. So this is our card, and I'm just a little disappointed at how it's very hard to see the colors. So I'm going to bring it up so you can see it. It's a little better when I bring it up close. You can see all the beautiful pinks and stuff that we have in it. I'm using these 3 colors, Rococo Rose, Blushing Bride, and Crumb Cake. And they're light colors, and they lend themselves very well to a collage kind of a technique. And this card starts out with an 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock that we're going to do a lot of stamping on. Hence why I have such a dirty surface today. I figured I'm not going to clean that up. So we're going to start by stamping some objects on here in a crosswise fashion. And I'm going to stamp, first of all, mostly in Crumb Cake. I'm going to start with the line art. Now I'm using a lot of sets. Mostly I'm using A Touch of Ink, which is a free set. Only 2 weeks left to get this set. I'm also using Hearts and Kisses because I love the little hearts in here. And I used 1 stamp out of here. So you really could do this card just with this. But I always like to add a few more things. So I'm going to take what I call the line art. The line art are these little hand-drawn images, and then the filler-ins are these objects. We'll use these as well. I'm also using the little dots to sort of create some texture. So I'm going to start with a line art stamp and sort of create leaves working their way down onto the surface. Right off the bat, I had a little trouble with stamping, but because it's a collage, I can get away with that. I am turning the stamp a little bit as I work my way down. Sorry, I'm downstairs and for some reason I'm having lots of little sneezes. I'm sorry that you had to listen to that. So you see how I'm sort of coming down along here and just working my way down like a vine would be. I can turn it any way I want. I'm going to sort of start right about here. I'm trying to come out about halfway between the top and the bottom. So I might have to take one of these into here. And once I have this pretty full, I'm going to start with my next stamp, which is the floral part. And I'm going to switch now to the Rococo Rose because I want the darker of the 2 to be the line art for this. Let's see how good this is stamping. I haven't had this out in a while. And I'm trying to get approximately 2 or 3 floral stems in each card. And I think the problem is I'm stamping off the page there. Same thing here. And I'm not too worried that I'm not covering the whole thing. I'm just going where I can, sort of getting a feel for what I like. And again, if you don't like it now, don't worry about it, because so often when you do a collage card like this, it really comes together at the very end. So do you see how I sort of have a cross section there? So what I'm going to do next is use the filler in for the flowers. And I am going to do that in Blushing Bride, just because I don't want it too strong, which means it probably won't show up. Now the trick is This is designed to go on a certain way, so I have to line that up. I always have a hard time the first time. Okay, there we go. It's very, very light. You almost can't see it, and I might come back in with some Rococo Rose as well at some point. The second time I stamped, it's a little better. But what I'm doing is filling in my floral flowers with the Blushing Bride, which is the lighter of the two colors, and it's sort of the background for the card. When you do a collage card, you want to do something where you get areas that come forward and areas that recede. That means they come forward on the picture plane. They look like they're stand out, and the ones that stand out are usually the highest contrast ones. So the light and dark ones are going to be the ones you see. You don't want too much of it because it overwhelms the picture plane. So you're just always playing around with how much ink you're putting down. I don't know if that makes sense to any of you. I'm going to go back and do this one because I think it needs another layer. And now I'm going to do the leaves back in the Rococo Rose. The fill-in leaves I'm going to do in Rococo Rose because it'll add some depth to this base area that's already the darkest area. Now the only thing is I got to line up those leaves. And the first one is always the hardest one to do. There we go. Just got to remember how I did it. There it is. And it doesn't really matter if I get it exactly right because, again, this is a filler. And I might have to stamp it multiple times to get it to line up properly, because there's so many of them on here, so you get a little confused as to what is what. As you can see, I'm struggling to find my spot. But again, that again adds more depth and color to some of these spots. I'm trying to get the ones that are way out here to be correct. I think this is how it's going to go. Like that. There we go. Now, one of the things is that I'm going to be cutting this up. So it doesn't really totally matter if it's perfect right off the bat. We can add and subtract things as we go. So I think what I'm going to do is come back in now with the brown and sort of work little areas that I like. So this is really sort of my main area. So where I feel it needs some filling in, I'm going to go back in with this little round stamp from the Circle Celebration. I love that. I think it's so pretty. So you see how I'm sort of filling in my lightish areas with that, and it's helping darken up this section. I'm also going to, at the very end, come back out and do some blending with my blending brush. I'm going to take the little dots now and really sort of concentrate my dots in places, sort of fill in against some areas that might need filling in. It's a great way to fix something that you don't like if you have a bad stamp. I always use that right over there. I'm noticing I missed a couple flowers, so I'm going to come back. But I'm trying to create this little light and airy feel with these little dots. So it looks quite strange, I think, to some people when they first see this. And I think I need to come back with more of the darker color in just some spots. I'm not going to worry about where, but I'm going to try to darken the center section. And this is just arbitrarily, I'm not lining it up, I'm just putting it wherever I want. I just filled in those flowers I missed. I'm going to fill in a couple over here, create just a tad darker value on some of those flowers, because I've decided I probably should have gone with a Rococo Rose to begin with. But, you know, the fact that I'm not lining it up actually makes it kind of interesting. Because I get two-tone value on for the price of one. You know, I'm taking one flower, and because it doesn't line up quite right, it works. It lines up. It overlaps. Some areas are darker, some areas are lighter. Okay, at this point, I'm going to pull my ink away, and I'm going to cut this up because it looks like a big, ugly mess, I bet, to you right now. But I guarantee you when we're done, you're going to like it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut it at 4 1/4 and 5 1/2. And I'm only going to do 1/2, but later on you can see 5 1/2, which is exactly what I want. Now, I am probably going to want it smaller, and I can decide if I want to show it like this, like that, or like that, and I kind of like this. So I am going to take 1/4 of an inch off of this, and I'm going to use that on the inside of my card. And I think I'm going to take the other 1/4 of the inch off the top. I'm going to go to 5 1/4. So this is the fun part of the design, is that you can sort of change up how you want your card, how you want it oriented. Let's do this one just so that you can see. We'll probably end up finishing both of those. 5, well, actually I want to do this side first. I always like to do this side first so I have a nice strip for the inside of the card. Look at how pretty that is. And then 5 1/4. Okay, so this card could be like this, and this card is going to be like this. See how different they are? So now what I need is my sentiment, and I did my sentiment in the crumb cake. Okay, and now I am going to add those little hearts that I liked. I'm going to put them in all over, and I'm going to stamp off. That means I'm going to stamp once, twice, maybe 3 times before I lift. It's really started out as a Valentine's Day card. I did it for a swap, and I liked it so much, I sort of added to it. You see how that's starting to look really nice? Now the last step is to add a little bit of color to the edges of it. And I'm going to do that with one of my blending brushes. Now I've talked about my blending brushes and how I keep them to color families. This is a yellow one, and I chose to use this with this brown because I think it'll be okay. I'll be able to clean it enough so that I get enough darkness in here, but not so much that I get yellow coming off. Now, if you haven't used one of my blending brushes or the Stampin' Up! Blending brushes, the trick with those is when you're done is to just rub until they come dry. And because this is such a light color, you almost don't see it the first few times you pounce on here. You can get pretty dark with these light colors right off the bat, but what I'm doing is just darkening up my edge a lot like I did my, well, I'll do on Friday. Friday I'm going to do a card that uses the blending brush. A lot of people have been asking to see that. And if there is something you'd like to see, leave me a message and I will add it to my list of things to do for you. So I'm darkening up that edge. It takes time with a blending brush, but what's cool about this technique is I have now 4 different cards. I can orient them any way I want out of just doing one section of cardstock. I took a whole piece of cardstock and cut it up. I'm a little impatient with how long this is taking, but the blending brush is designed to be light to begin with so that you get nice smooth blending. So you just have to be patient with how that color develops because it does take time. Now I could add more ink there, but I hate to work with too dark an ink right off the bat. So, okay, so now I'm done with that. And now I am going to take and clean it by just doing this over and over until it's clean. Now you can't see real well on here, so I'm not going to spend too much time. But once it's dry, you can add a new color. A lot of people have asked me to wash this. Yeah, you can. I did wash a brush that wasn't a Stampin' Up! Brush, and I wasn't too happy with what happened to it. So I'm not saying that you can't. I've heard other people say that they have done that. But you never know what's going to happen with that. So that's my concern. And I've been very happy. I mean, I'm using this with, I had yellow. I'll use it with all different colors. I'm just sort of sticking to color families. Now, I used the metallic ribbon from the new catalog, and I always start with about an 8-inch piece, and then I tie a little knot. I think that that's just really pretty. And because this card is so busy, you don't need a lot. Like, you don't need another sentiment. You don't need something else on top of it. I mean, you could, but there. I think that's good and tight now. So now I'm going to grab my scissors and trim it. You can see I don't have my fabric scissors here. I'm going to cut it not in the middle because I want it sort of off center. I'm going to wrap that around like that. I could do the same thing here with this one, but I'm not going to put that one together just because you don't need to watch that. But I do have now stuff for 4 cards, which is really fun. And then the last step is to put some opal rounds on it after I glue this down. Now that didn't take too awfully long, I don't think. Let's see how long this was today. I can't quite see. And then when I'm ready, I can do another card just the same with this one. See how pretty that is? Just different orientation. I love the little hearts going up. So I'm going to take my opal rounds and decorate that, and then I have 2 cards, and I have 2 more that I can make just out of my sheet that I used today. So that part is really fun. I don't know what happened to that opal round, but it went flying. I usually like 3. There, so it just sort of gives it a little extra oomph. I have to sort of decide where I'm putting these, even though I don't have the ribbon on yet. There. So all I need to do with this one is add the ribbon and I'm done. And I've already pre-put the inside, this little strip that I told you about. I took and just added it in here, and I think it's a super nice way to finish the card. So I hope you enjoyed that today. I'll see you tomorrow. I have a really neat, fun fold for tomorrow. Thank you for watching.